presentation is about building business applications with the Webform module. Now, Webform module, if you have used it, how many of you have used the Webform module? Okay, you have. So the others, I take it, have not used Webform module. So can you raise your hand if you have not used Webform module? Okay, so yeah, this 50-50, I guess. Okay, Webform module. So I guess introducing the module itself is in order. The Webform module basically is a module that lets you create web forms. And what are those? Think surveys. Okay, so let me, yeah. So I think this is good. This is exactly what I'm going to talk about. So if you have surveys, and what would you, if you were to make a survey, let me make sure this works. Okay, so if you had, if you were doing surveys or say job application, something where you want to collect data. So it lets you design custom forms and save the submissions. So an example is you are collecting RSVP for party you're throwing. Okay, so you have some information so right at the So yeah, right at the top of your page, you'll have some information about your event, and then there will be a form which allows the users to say, okay, I'm attending or not attending, this is my phone number, I'm coming with 3 other guests, so on and so forth, those kinds of things. So that you would create it very easily with web forms. Another example could be surveys, and could be job applications, and so on and so forth. Another great thing about web forms is web forms module comes with its own content type, which looks like any other article or page with web form attached to it. Yes, but it also comes it comes with a feature where you can take any content type, any custom content type of your own choosing, and tack a web form to it. Now think about why is that useful? That's very useful because let's say you have a custom content type called job posting. Okay, so in your job posting you have skills required, and expected salary or offered salary range. You have required starting date. You have some other things. So this would be a custom content type naturally because it has all these custom fields. Correct. But now you want to also collect the job application on that posting. So people visit the posting page. Right below that, there is the job application form that somebody can fill out with their information, upload your resume, copy paste your resume if you want into this text box, and check this, give us this information. Are you willing to move? Do you need moving assistance? Blah blah blah. Right? All those things. So in that situation, you are collecting some information from the job applicant, but you're also giving them a lot of information about the job posting. So that collecting information part requires web form, and giving them lots of information requires a custom content type, and that's where web form comes in.
As well as saving information with the web form module, can you use it to kick off some business logic, like run a query and then send it to another page? So you collect that information and run a query?
Absolutely, yes, you can. Let me come to that in 1 second. Once I show the configuration of web form, then that will make things clear there. Hold on. So let me just get through this. So it comes with lots of standard. So think about if you have done any custom content type creation. Think you have text fields, checkboxes, and so on and so forth. You are creating those custom content types, right? Web form is very similar. It also lets you put text fields and checkboxes and so on and so forth, except that every time somebody submits a web form, they are not creating a new node on your site. They are creating a new submission, which is much more lightweight compared to a node. And the other thing is, you don't have to give them content creation permissions. And casual users who are coming to a website, they shouldn't be able to create content as such. All they are doing is they're giving you a submission. And by the way, we use web forms quite extensively. We have our own ticketing service, event ticketing with seat selection, sort of like Ticketmaster. And we use web forms in that, and it selects all that information. So you can put all kinds of controls, checkbox radius. The other great thing about not only it's collecting the information, it can trigger an email. So one of the things that it can do, and it comes out of the box, you don't have to do anything special. It can trigger an email, or any number of emails, by the way, to either a predetermined email address or to an email address that the user has just entered as part of their submission, okay? And a combination of those things. And I'm going to show you how you can further enhance that functionality. So it sends emails driven by submitted data. Like I said, you don't have to give content creation permissions to your anonymous users. Anybody can submit without creating nodes. And it just like it triggers email, it lets you download submission reports. So if you had 500 people just filling out your survey, you can summarize the survey, you can download the survey report. And it's a CSV file which you can then copy paste or convert into an Excel spreadsheet and do all kinds of math on it if you want. Or you can write some custom logic to do the math for you right out of the gate, which we do. It's very lightweight and it's very flexible data model. And this last part where it has a flexible data model it's a blessing and a curse. Flexible is good because now every time you create a new field in your web form, you are not creating new tables. I don't know if you guys already know this, but in a custom content type in Drupal, whenever you create a custom field, it's creating two tables. No, I didn't say one column or two columns. I'm saying two new tables altogether. So every field. So imagine your custom content type has 10 custom fields. You are creating 20 tables in addition to everything else that comes with it. So it's pretty heavyweight. Custom content types are very heavyweight. This thing is very lightweight. It stores your custom fields without creating, forget about tables. No, it doesn't even create columns for each custom field. It simply puts the name of the field and it stores it flattened into like each row. Every cell is a row. Right. So that means you can create 200 new columns. You're not 200 new fields, and there is no new column created for it. It simply will create 200 rows for each submission. So, which I said is a curse and a blessing. Blessing because now your data model is simpler. Curse because your queries are inefficient. You're basically reading 200 rows for one. If you had 200 fields, you're reading several rows for each submission. Okay, so that's a mixed problem, good and bad. But anyway, so here now use cases. We spoke about some of these. That you have contact form, survey or poll, content submission. So if you were running some sort of a news, like a crowdsourced news business website, you're asking your readers for articles, and so they can submit articles like this through a web form without you having to let them create nodes and so on and so forth. Maybe you want a little more control over that, so you can do that here. And event registration, we do this for our ticketing. So like I gave an example of RSVP, you can do that. Case tracking systems, again, you want incident tracking, so on. So there are many examples, and they can get pretty complicated. So you can do whatever you feel like. I mean, there's a lot you can do with it. So there are some helper modules. I have not actually shown you web forms yet, so I think I should do that, especially since some of you have not used web forms. So I'm just showing you a very simple web form. Okay, that's it, nothing. It's a test web form. It has this field. Hold on, let me use my actual mouse. on a side note, if you are using the touchpad of the mouse, you're slowing yourself down. So I strongly suggest use a real mouse with a wireless, if possible, with a mouse wheel. Things go so much faster. So I was just saying that this is my test web form. I can put all kinds of content in this. So this is the body, just like any other page. Okay. So, and if I save this, this is your title, this is the body, but this is where your web form starts. And in the web form, you can I have added. So this is my web form tab. This you will have only on the content types that are web form enabled. So you can let me show you here in configuration, web form settings, content authoring web form settings. You see here, you can web form itself is checked for web form enabled content types, but you can attach a web form to articles or basic pages. So this way, every article can have a web form attached to it. So this is pretty. So imagine if this was a job posting site, there would be a content type called job posting here, and the web form checkbox would be checked. Okay. So and then these are the various other things which you can check out. But I wanted to show you this particular one. So back to my web form. It has one field called your email. So let's say this is an RSVP. So you say number of guests, right? So it's let's say it's a drop down. So select options. It's mandatory, and we add and number of guests. So see, it's letting me add. This is the label. This is the machine name of the field, and we will say default value is 0, and then description, please enter additional guests. Okay, let's see that. This lets you choose more than one in the drop down, but of course we will make a drop down where it says 0 and or 1 or 2 or 3, and that's it. Let's say we don't want more than 3 guests with somebody. So, and I'll explain other things later, but let's just say save this. So now when you view it, so this is your party description, this this is the email address you're asking, and then you're saying number of guests. Oh, sorry, this turned into radio buttons, so I can go back into web form, edit that box, and say don't show it as the radios, show it as a list box, which will turn it into a drop down. So I go back here, and it turned into this. Okay. So this is you can imagine that this is pretty useful. So now if I send myself, I register myself with one guest. Let's say. Let me make sure that So if I register myself as one guest, I say submit. It's sent, and now it should have triggered an email to me. Let me check. So the web form, and I'll show you where it is configured. Hold on. By the way, this is a pretty good book to have. So I'll just, they've told me whoever asked good questions or anything. So if you have any interesting, useful question which benefits everybody, please do ask. You might end up getting the. Okay, no, I didn't get that email, so I'm not sure if I have configured it correctly. But going back to the form. So this is where you are configuring components, and then here in the email tab. Oh yeah, so yeah, there is that. Okay, the email tab, you configure the email that go out when this web form is submitted, and then finally in the form settings, and that will answer your question. Yes.
You had from set, but you need to set to for email.
Let me see. From is there, yes, but to will be, let's see, the to email address. Subject. Yeah, see this is where it's going to. So The to is whatever the component, where the component email input component, whatever email was entered in there, that's where it's going to. But I think I didn't get it because my from and to is the same, so that's the reason why. But anyway, I'll come back to it. This is where this form component is where you configure your components, what information, the input field that you want to collect. Emails is the email that you want to trigger out of each submission. And then form settings, which should answer your question about what can you trigger workflows. Or part of it is you can probably trigger workflows from emails, but if that's not for you, then excuse me, you can still trigger workflows in the confirmation page. So here's the confirmation page. So this is when somebody has submitted their web form, what will they see? And they will see, thank you for submitting, or they might see, some Facebook, share it with Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Or you can change, so you can type stuff in here. Right here, you can put any kind of HTML that they will see after submitting. But here's the great thing. You could put a custom URL here. And that's the good part. That can trigger all kinds of workflows. So without actually coding something, this would be your way to trigger a workflow. So basically, and by the way, the submission ID can be a part of it. So you can say,
all of your submission
I'm sorry?
all your submission data can be part of it.
Yes. I don't think everything can be.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, I know.
There is some limit. So yeah, they can
Whatever's
be.
available.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Your email.
True. So let's say something which says trigger this or that, whatever, something, and then you can say submission ID equals % submission ID. So you're triggering something at some URL, and when you're passing in the submission ID, and whatever page callback for that URL is, it can take the submission ID out of that URL and then do something with it. I mean, that would be your workflow. It depends on what you want it done. That is the configuration-driven method. There is a problem with that method. Can anybody tell me what the problem is with that method of triggering?
All the data is showing in the URL.
Right.
Yeah, that's one. What's the?
There's no good page to redirect to. It's no good page to redirect to if it's if they don't have access to edit it. If it's only to trigger it, then there's no redirection after that.
That's also one. The problem that I'm thinking of is that if somebody simply visits the page again, it triggers that workflow again. Now they shouldn't visit the page again, but if they just hit reload, it triggers the workflow again without actually doing the submission. And that's the fundamental issue with GET request. This would be a GET request. It's a redirection to someplace. So that is, sometimes it's a serious problem, sometimes it's not so serious problem. If it is a serious problem for you, then you need coding-driven methods of triggering workflow. This is not for you. But yeah, that's one thing. But what you said is kind of pertinent too, that nothing is happening after that. So that's also true. That's another problem, I guess. So far, I just wanted to give a little bit of background. I'm sure those who have used web forms are probably getting bored, but I wanted to keep everybody engaged. So, all right. So now let's go back to what beyond web form module. Beyond, you have installed the web form module, downloaded it, installed it, enabled it, created some web forms. You have put all kinds of fields, components in there. You're receiving emails. You're downloading your submissions, and all that is great. What happens after that? Where do you go from there? So there used to be a module called web form conditional. There still is, but you don't need it anymore. With web form version 4, it's built in, the capabilities of this module, where conditional means you select country as US, and then your drop down shows US states, and then you select that state, and then drop down shows the cities within that state. So that kind of or if there is a section of the site, do you need special assistance, accessibility assistance. There's a checkbox. And if they check the checkbox, you want to say what type, do you have blindness or, mobility, ambulatory issues, whatever. If they don't check that checkbox, you shouldn't be asking them all those questions, right? So that's what you achieve with Webform conditional. And now with Webform 4.0, the latest version, you don't have to worry about it because it's built into the system. It lets you configure conditional. When this field has this value, then show or don't show this other field. So that's what the conditional is about. Webform rules, that's your answer. React to submissions, trigger the workflow. Okay. Tokens, again, tokens used to be a big deal, but now they're built into Webform. Every Webform submission value that they entered, number of guests coming with you, and your email address, or do you need special assistance, etc., are available as Webform tokens, which means you can write very complicated email. Your email format can be really complex because now it is fully token enabled, and you can also do more beyond that, but I won't go too much in detail. Fill PDF is another module that I found very useful. It can combine with Webform tokens. It can generate PDFs from Webform submissions. Great. So your job applications or so on and so forth, the email that is going back to them can contain a PDF of whatever they submitted, sort of. So this can be a very good way. Student loan assistance stuff, they're filling it out and they're getting a PDF with a full form that they just have to sign and mail it back to you. So those kinds of things can be done with Fill PDF. And I already spoke about attach web forms to non-webform content types. Okay, so now what do you do beyond configuration? So these are the other some useful modules that you guys should check out. But what else can you do? Now we are slowly getting over configuration part. We have downloaded the modules, but there is still something that we want to change, some behaviors, and we are willing to get our hands dirty and do a little bit of coding. And trust me, very little amount of coding will be sufficient to get several of these things. So let's take an example. Let's switch to this here. In the email, you can say this email is directed towards this component value, right? So which means the email will go to this person who submitted, right? You also want yourself to be, or your, let's say you are doing, this is a job posting site, and the email goes to the applicant, of course, but an email also needs to go to the person who posted the job. So which means the owner, the user ID of the node, the posting node. You can achieve that by adding another email. You just say some add component value and fixed value like here. You can put something and then say add. So that's one. But how many times? Two problems. One is whatever work you did, whatever hard work you did on formatting this email correctly, you'll have to repeat that. And whenever you update one of them, you have to update the other one separately. And in every time you would actually have to come in here. There is no way to select the owner of the node, by the way, as you can see. There is no way for well, is there any way? I don't think. See, this doesn't take tokens. Does it? Anybody knows? I haven't seen it taking tokens. So, which means every time there is a job posting, somebody has to actually go in there and physically type in the email address of the owner of the job posting. All those things are bad. So, wouldn't it be nice if all you had to do was just go to the just add a blind CC component with any number of email addresses that you want, right? And you could further enhance it by saying that blind CC the owner of the node anyways, which of course programmatically you can determine. So that is how to do that now. Had it been some other module that was not as well designed as Webform. I mean, Webform is one of my favorite modules. I learned so much from it. I don't even know who wrote it, but whoever did a great job. So the reason why I'm praising that because some design choices they made that we all will benefit from. And let me show you. What they did was they added a field called extra to every component. So if you look at any component definition, let me show you how a component is defined in web forms. So this is Heidi SQL. I'm just looking at my database. I want to show you what it looks like behind the scenes. So the web form component. So this is the component, and there are these fields. So there is the node ID that the web form is on, the component ID. So I have two components, so the components ID will be 1 and 2, right? And then parent ID, in case you have parent-child relationship between components, which you can make one component child of another. Form key, this is the number of guests or your email address and all that. And then the label, which is the English label, human readable label. Type, which would be select list in one case, or email in another, or text box, or so on and so forth. Value, I think that's the default value. And then I'll skip this extra one, mandatory if it is required or not, and weight, so order. Now let's come back to this extra. This is my favorite field in this, because this extra is a grab bag of anything you want to attach to the component. So this is where you will put your blind CC field, or this is a single use select option. So another example, what kind of things you might want to do to existing web form components. So to an email component, you might want to say, add BCCs to this email component. So whatever email you send out, also blind CC these email addresses. So that's extra information on top of the configured information, not submitted information, just configured information that you want to configure at design time, store at design time, and then at runtime you retrieve that value and blind CC that other email address also. So that's one example. Another example is, let's say your drop down signified seat numbers in a theater concert. Okay, and so if you have 500 seats, if a seat number actually gets sold, you don't want it to be shown again, right? It's sold. So it should, when your event opens, there are 500 choices. And then as seats start getting sold, there are fewer and fewer choices. So these choices have to disappear. So
And that works for anonymous users who are visiting the site?
Correct.
They'll see those being taken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, then you have to worry about people booking but not paying for it and all those. So, and there are solutions. Yeah. So, but those are separate problems. You just don't want the same seat sold twice. That's one thing, right? So that is called, so I have a module out there which I have not made full top level yet. It's still in the sandbox, but you can check it out. It's called Webform Single Use Options. So these are Webform options that can be used only once. So like, presentation slots, for example, right? If you have 10 slots, and I pick one, then somebody else should not be able to pick the same one, and so on and so forth. So these are single use options use cases. How do you achieve that? Well, wouldn't it be nice if all your select boxes, when you're configuring the component, had a checkbox, single use only? And if you check the checkbox, and they start disappearing from that point onwards. Every time you use that option once, it's not available anymore. So these are the small enhancements that I'm talking about, and that this one single design choice that whoever made that brilliant choice. And with this, had it not been there, a lot of us would not be motivated to just add that feature, and I don't know what we would do. But because you would have to add your own column to record the fact that the checkbox is checked or not checked, right? So it's a configuration setting. You would have no place to save that configuration setting within the component. Therefore, you would have to make your own table with your own column, or maybe add a column here. So With this extra, let me demonstrate to you what this extra does. With this extra component attribute, you can store arbitrary information, because that extra attribute is serialized form of a PHP array. So let me show you. So we have the excellent devel module enabled, so I can examine the node. So this is my Webform node. It has its title and where is the title? It has the publishing status. It has, where is the title? Oh, there. So it has title, it has body, and so on, so many things. But it also, so body is here. This is the gibberish that I typed, right? So, but it has this extra thing, which non-Webform enabled nodes won't have this. So here it has Webform and it has the components. So that, as I told you, right, these are my component IDs, two components I added. And this is the number of guest component, and that's the extra. So it stores description in there, the choices that are available, the drop-down choices. Is it multi-select or not, right? So sorry, here, yeah, multi-select here, and so many other things. So this is a free form. It's a Drupal array, right? Sorry, PHP array. You can put whatever in it, but it gets serialized. So this is a perfect place to, if you had my component number 1 is an email address, it's a perfect place to store okay, there is no BCC in here. Okay, so this is a perfect place to store BCC, who to BCC. So now if I go to Webform and check this, edit this component, this additional BCC was not there. I have added that with my custom module, and now I'm going to show you how it is done. So first, let me show. If I wanted, webmaster at spinspire.com to be BCC'd on this, right? If I save this, now I go to devel, Webform, the components, extra. See that? That's the BCC. So it got stored there. I did not have to create a separate table, separate column or anything in there. I just took advantage of the existing column. So let me show you how that was done. So that, let's go back to the presentation because that will help us. So this is the dollar component extra that I was talking about. So on the database, it takes form of a column, and inside your PHP code, module code, it's an array key called extra, and I'll show you some sample code. So when you're altering, and you basically take the Webform component editing form and alter it just a little bit. But when you are altering it, this is the information that is available to you. You have the node available to you. So how many of you have done any form alter or any coding, any module development?
I haven't, but I want to.
Okay. So yeah, if you're close to doing it, I will actually go through the basic process of module writing. So here's what you do. OPT. So this is my site setup, and I have created a module called WF demo, Webform demo. Okay, so this is for the purpose of this presentation. So any module will have an info file. This info file is pretty straightforward. All you have to, it just needs to give the human readable name of the module. The machine name of the module is always this part of before.info, right? That's the machine name. That's the human readable name. This is the human readable description that shows up in your module listing. this is required. You have to specify which core version of Drupal your module is compatible with. So currently it's 7, it could be 6, in future it will be 8, and so on and so forth. And dependencies, since your module depends on Webform, it should be listed as. So this will cause Webform module to be enabled whenever your module is enabled. Okay? So it's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's nothing complicated here. Then let's see what's in my WF demo module file. If you run any PHP coding, you would know that a PHP file, source files start with this tag. And if this is a PHP source file only and no HTML is being generated as part of this, then make sure you do not have a closing PHP tag, like I don't. So it's important not to have the closing PHP tag, because if you do, then it will end up outputting white space or something like that. You don't want that. Do you understand that last point? Basically, if you close your PHP tag, you open it and then close it also, you're causing characters to be output as part of your HTML page just because the server read your file. You don't want that, right? You want it to be more deliberate than that. So accidentally.
Is the PHP tag somewhere else on the page, or somewhere else in the system?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Where is the end PHP tag? Why don't?
No, there will be no end page. This is it. No end tag. Sorry. This is so you begin, and you say there is no ending, meaning to say I just want the web server to read and load the PHP, and I don't want web server to generate any text. That will be done elsewhere, but right now my purpose is just to give you some code and not generate any text inadvertently. Okay. So that's what this is for. So make sure you don't have a closing tag in any module file, any pure PHP code files. You don't want any. Okay. So then this is a form alter hook implementation. So what does that do? Are you familiar with hooks? How many of you don't know what a hook is? Looks like everybody does. Okay, good. So I'll still mention it. Basically, hooks are callbacks from Drupal back into your module code. So Drupal is in charge. Drupal is in driving seat. Your module is not in driving seat. It does its work only when Drupal asks it for some work. So how do you tell Drupal that you're available for work or you want to do something at a certain? So you do that with hook implementations. So you specify, and Drupal has predefined points that when I am building a form, after I've built the form, I'm going to let any module alter the form if they want to. And that's called a hook. That's the point at which it's going to allow all registered modules a chance to alter the form. That's a great way. I mean, this is why Drupal is so popular, is because it allows you to just enable a module and suddenly your system behaves slightly differently without changing any code in the original Webform module. In your WF demo module, you are able to influence what Webform module is doing, right? So there are many hooks. So Drupal defines where so lots of hooks. How am I doing on time, by the way? I'm actually pretty far behind. So I'll just hurry up a little. But basically, you say hook. The word hook is replaced by the name of your module, and then the name of the hook. And the name of this hook is form, followed by the form ID, which is web form component edit form, followed by alter. So this is the name of the hook. I'm sorry, you can probably not read it very well, but it's hook form underscore form ID alter. Okay, so that's and this is the implementation of it. So now, which form are we talking about? We are talking about this editing of this form. So how do I know it is this form? How do I know that it's this form? In this web developer toolbar, basically it tells me if I say, what is it, form information? Yeah, form. So here there is a form ID somewhere in here. form ID. Yeah. See that? That's the name of the form. So I highly recommend you installing Web Developer Toolbar if you don't have it already. It kind of makes it easy for you to see what's going on inside the form. So now that I know that's the form ID, then I basically say my module name underscore a form and then the form ID alter. This is my, and these are the parameters. So if you don't know what parameters it should take, you can basically go to api.drupal.org. Okay. And looks like my internet is down. Okay. I never bothered to, I did not connect to the internet here, so it's okay. But if you go to api.drupal.org and you can look up all these hooks, okay. So in any case, you look at this, yeah. So basically what you did was you implemented this function. It receives these parameters, $form, and out of that $form, you can examine what type of component are you editing, and that would be, in this case, this is an email component. So email component is exactly what we are interested in. So you can say, if the type of component is an email component, then I want to alter it. Otherwise, I don't want to alter it. And how are you altering it? You're saying $form extra. This is the, remember you're editing a component. So it has a bunch of things, and you are simply adding your own input box to it, this text box to it, additional BCC. So here's, you say $form extra, and you can make up your own key, and you're saying I want to collect some extra information which is of type text field, and this is what the user should see, BCC. This is the description, etc., etc., and then default value. Of course, when you arrive at this point first time, it should remember what component is already storing, right? So then you're saying the default value, the starting value, should be extracted out of the component itself, and the $component you got out of form state, because form state gives you this information. So I'm sorry, some of it is mumbo jumbo, but once you can actually download this code. I will put that up, and it'll be a good way for you to learn to manipulate web forms. But once you do all this, you're done actually. Well, not completely done, but as far as storing and retrieving this extra information attributes is concerned, you are done. You'll notice that there is no submit. There is no code which is saying, okay, now that I collected extra BCC, let me save it somewhere. No, don't have to do it. That's the beauty of the Webform module design. Simply because your information attribute is a child of extra, it gets saved automatically in this place here. It gets saved automatically. You don't have to do anything special to save it here, and you don't have to do anything special to retrieve it from there also, other than just this. Okay, so this is why I like extra so much. So that gives you a lot of free functionality, a place to store, and some code that takes care of saving and storing and everything, right? Now that you have this information stored on the component, what should you do? You can use this information later at runtime when somebody submitted and an email is going out. That's the time when you want to tack on the BCC header to your email, right? You want to blind CC somebody. So that's why the next thing you would do is you would implement this hook. This is another hook called hook mail alter. So the word hook is always replaced with the module name, right? So this becomes WF demo underscore mail underscore alter. And basically Drupal is giving you a chance, just like Drupal gave you a chance to alter a form before it's going to after it has been built, but before it's going to be shown. Drupal is giving you a chance to alter an email that is going out. Drupal has, whether your module existed or not, Drupal and Webform was anyway going to send out an email. Now this is your chance to alter that email just a little bit. So what we are doing here is, we are saying that if this email is going out to a pre-configured email component, because this value, the $message param, again, how do I know these things? I basically DPM, I print whatever parameters I get, and I look through what's the information in there, and that's how I find out what is appropriate, where is it stored. And I would strongly encourage you guys to also learn how to do live debugging with Xdebug and NetBeans, so that you can actually put a breakpoint wherever you want. I don't think I can cover it here, but just want to let you know. But so now I check that I am sending to an email to a component through Webform. If that is the case, I get the component ID, and from that component ID, oh, by the way, message also contains the node. I got the node and component ID. I can extract my actual component, and if that component contains a BCC attribute, if it does, then I want that BCC attribute, and this is the thing that does the magic. This line where my cursor is. $message headers BCC. Just add the BCC. So the email as it goes out, it's blindly seeing the other address that you have. So this. Now, I think we can go further. There are lots and lots of things we can do with this. So another example. So here, this was an example with a little amount of code. So, I mean, take a look at how much code was there. There was this code. This is not related to it, by the way. And this code. And this part is not even related to Webforms. So, 5-10 lines, basically, which let you add some functionality. You can do much more. If you wanted to add a single, so here's another example where I am looking at select components, and I'm saying whenever something is a multi-select. So here's I'm going to add a multi-select component. So here, Webform, and let's say this is seat selection. Okay. It's a select component, and whatever it has, I want to options are 1A, 1B. So these are rows and seat numbers. 1B, 2A. You have to specify options like this. 2B. That's it. And then, because I add, see this JavaScript multi-select, this is also a custom thing that I added through this code. Okay? So all it's doing is adding a checkbox. So if I check that checkbox, save the component, view. Oh, sorry, it was not even, again, it was I forgot to make it a select box. It turns into radio by default. So let me, it's a JavaScript multi-select, and the multiple is not checked, and then I have to make it a list box. If I do those things, view it. This is not what you were, yeah?
Could you use the data that is submitted? Could you use views to query that data?
Yes, there is a module called Webform_data. Okay, what it does is it turns the submissions.
Oh, Webform's data.
Webform_data.
Webform.
Yeah. So what it does is it turns your Webform submissions into views capable data. So now suddenly your submission data shows up in views. Yeah.
A little bit complicated to set that up, but there's a good screencast from Node 1 that shows how to do that.
All right.
Use
Great.
Webform submissions.
I think you just helped the audience. So thank you. So So yes, what are that again?
It's a
Screencast from who?
Node 1.
Node 1, okay.
It's a Swedish company there
Okay.
and whatnot. It shows you how to use web form submissions in views. You got to do some MySQL grouping or something like that.
Okay.
But they have a pretty good screencast that shows you how
Oh,
to do that.
great, thank you. Appreciate that.
So-
So in this,
A quick question. Some of what you did before with the blind CC could be done as a hidden field, but the hidden field would show up in your source code, and it maybe is information you don't want to store. Will this won't show up in your source
no,
code?
this won't. This is saved strictly on the server side.
Yeah.
The client side won't see it. Well, actually, if that's the case, then there is some ways to, hidden fields can be made server side only, by the way. It's possible to do that. You can, there is a checkbox where it says server side only, and that way it won't show up.
Oh, okay. So
But-
that would be another way of doing what you did without the custom module.
Yes, I'm sure there is some. So, back to this, what I wanted to show you here was that this multi-select, if you remove the JavaScript multi-select from here, then the same thing is like this, right? And as you know, not a lot of people know how to do multiple selection with control key held down, right? Very few people non-technical people don't know that. So the only way to help them do that is make it a little more user-friendly. You turn on JavaScript multi-select, and now the same thing is accessible like this, right? So now how did we achieve that? Again, all we did was add a checkbox. The checkbox value automatically gets saved in the right place because it is a child of extra, right? And then whenever we are about to render a web form client form, we check for this multi-select, and we attach a JavaScript file. So if it says use multi-select, then just add this JavaScript, attach the JavaScript to it. Now, of course, I won't go into details of this. The point is that you can do lots of tweaks like this with very little effort, and you can come up with your own needs. I'm sure you have that, oh, I wish it did this, right? So you can do those things. Now let's go back to the presentation because I think we are running out of time pretty soon. Let me see what time is it. Yes, we will. So, and these are the API hooks. The presentation will be available. I will put it on, so I don't want to go over this stuff. But what hooks are useful, they're listed, and how to use them. You can see the example in the code. And I think I already explained extra quite a bit. And then this is the generalized approach to customizing web forms. So this basically tells you, you want to do anything special, you want to add an extra checkbox, what is the generalized? You basically say your module web, and then implement this hook, you put your special data, right, in some place. And then because you set the parents to make it a child of extra, and therefore it will get saved correctly, right? And then when you are displaying the form, at the time of displaying the form, you basically extract that information back and do something with it. Alter. And then, so this is a generalized approach, which unfortunately we are running out of time for that. But we already explained that. What else is possible? So you could do all kinds of things like, in the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that the way a web form stores the data is very flexible, but a little inefficient. You could skip that whole thing. You could make it such that web form data is not stored at all, or it is stored in custom tables of your own. And so there is a form, there's a module called the remote post, etc. also, which basically takes the web form submission and does a RESTful post somewhere else altogether in a different place. So that means you could have your a third-party service, which by the way we have a Eloqua integration with Webform. So there is a CRM service elsewhere and people submit their web form, some RSVP, or they want to, they're making a request for advertising. It goes into a third-party service. So those kinds of things are possible. And there are some extra modules that you could use. So this, you can, feel free to, my card is here. Feel free to ask questions. You know, on the DrupalCamp site, there will be this session. Session is connected to my profile, and you can send me an email from that, or you can just take one of the cards. And the code will be available. It's already there, actually. It's in my Drupal.org sandbox. So you can look me up there and then look for WF demo or Webform demo module. And the presentation will be available. So hope you guys learned something.
Yeah.